Have you ever sent a message, waited a few minutes, then a few hours, then found yourself checking your phone compulsively, hoping, just hoping that you'd see those three little dots appear? That's the moment when you realize nothing's coming. It feels small at first, a tiny pinch in the heart, and then it grows. Silence is loud when you're the only one filling it with hope. If this has happened to you, you're not alone. It's a painful, confusing experience whether you're 25 or 65. Because no matter how much life experience we gather, no matter how many milestones we cross, at the core, we all remain profoundly human, wired for connection, for recognition, for respect. And when someone starts ignoring you, it can feel like all of that effort, all of that hope, all of that you are simply invisible. But here's the truth: being ignored says far more about them than it will ever about you. And today we're going to talk about how to respond when that happens. Not with anger, not with desperation, but with something infinitely stronger: dignity. Because at this stage of life, your time, your heart, and your peace are far too valuable to be spent chasing after someone who has forgotten how to see you. Now let's talk about why being ignored feels so painful, even when we know in our minds that we shouldn't take it personally. Because understanding the why helps us take back our power. First, you need to know it's not a weakness, it's wiring. As human beings, we are biologically designed to fear being excluded. Thousands of years ago, being part of a group wasn't just a nice feeling, it was survival. If you were cast out, ignored, or left behind, your life could literally be at risk. And even though today we live in houses and drive cars and carry tiny computers in our pockets, that primitive part of our brain, that part that equates silence with danger, is still very much alive. When someone you care about pulls away without explanation, your body responds before your mind can catch up. You might feel it as a sudden anxiety, a pit in your stomach, racing thoughts. It's not because you're needy, it's because deep down your mind is trying to protect you from what it sees as abandonment. And here's where it gets even more complicated. The older we get, the more betrayals we've lived through, which means the silence doesn't just trigger fear. It can reopen every old scar you've ever had to stitch close yourself. So when he ignores you, it's not just about him. It's about the echo of every single time you were left unheard, unseen, or made to feel like your feelings didn't matter. Recognizing this is powerful, because once you realize your pain is a natural response, not a personal flaw, you can start to move from reaction to intention, from panic to poise. Before we move on, I want you to hold on to this truth. Being hurt by someone's silence doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. But staying dignified in the face of that silence, that makes you powerful. Now, with that foundation in place, let's talk about the common mistakes many people make when they're being ignored. Mistakes that quietly strip away dignity without them ever realizing it. Let's talk about these mistakes, the things that so many of us do when we're being ignored that end up making us feel even worse. And listen, this isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. Because when you see a pattern clearly, you can choose something better. Let's start with the first and most common one: emotional chasing. That impulse to send another message and then another, to ask, "Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Can we talk?" It's completely understandable. You're trying to close the painful gap that someone else created. But here's the brutal truth: chasing rarely brings the connection you want. It often pushes it even further away. Because the harder you chase someone who's retreating, the smaller you start to feel. And the smaller you feel, the less attractive and respected you become to them, and more importantly, to yourself. Now, the second mistake is what I call logical chasing. This is when you write long texts explaining why you deserve a response, listing all the reasons why you're a good partner, a good person, someone worthy of respect. I really get it. You're trying to be reasonable, you're trying to appeal to fairness, but the reality is, people don't stay because you wrote the perfect essay. They stay because they want to. Silence, at its core, is a lack of will, not a lack of information. And finally, there's punitive silence. That's when we try to hurt back by ignoring them, blocking them, cutting them off abruptly, not from a place of calm, but from a place of wounded pride. It might feel good for a moment, it might even feel like power. But when we react from anger, we let their behavior define ours. And that is not true dignity. That's just a mirrored injury. So before we move on, let me say this. You are worth more than reaction. You're worth more than desperate explanations, and you are definitely worth more than games. And if you're the kind of person who wants to respond to life and to love with wisdom instead of panic, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to the Golden Hour. Here we don't chase chaos, we build peace and we protect it fiercely. Now let's move into the most important part, how to respond with dignity when you're being ignored, step by step. How do you actually respond with dignity when someone starts ignoring you? I'm going to walk you through this step by step because dignity isn't just about doing nothing. It's about choosing intentional action, even if that action is silence. Step 1. Pause before you react. When you feel the sting of being ignored, your first instinct will probably be to do something. Text again, call, ask for clarity. But the truth is, emotion demands urgency. Wisdom demands stillness. Before you respond, give yourself space, 24 hours minimum. Breathe through the discomfort, get some lavender oil. You're not obligated to respond to silence with panic. Remember, the first reaction is often the one you regret. The second reaction, after reflection, is the one you will stand by. Step 2. Match his energy. If he pulls back, you pull back. Not as punishment, not as a strategy, but because mutual effort is the foundation of any real relationship. If you find yourself carrying all the emotional weight, messaging first, planning everything, chasing after scraps of attention, that's not connection, that's imbalance. And imbalance always collapses eventually. So match his energy, not his excuses. If he gives you silence, you give him peace, your peace, by stepping back. Step 3. Focus your attention inward. When someone pulls away, your mind will naturally fixate on them. It's a survival reflex. Where did they go? What does this mean? But here's the shift. You can't control whether someone values you. You can control whether you value yourself. Instead of pouring your energy into someone who isn't showing up, pour it back into your own life. Pick up the hobbies you neglected. Reconnect with friends who always have time for you. Invest in yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually. Because nothing is more attractive and more healing than a life that's full and vibrant with or without them. Step 4. Stay available to life, not just to him. This one's subtle but important. When someone you care about ignores you, it's tempting to emotionally shut down, to build a wall so no one else can get in. But don't close yourself off to the world because one person failed to recognize your worth. Stay available to joy, to new experiences, to new connections. Because the truth is, sometimes the people who ignore us are doing us the greatest favor of all, making room for those who never would. Your life is too precious to be spent waiting at a closed door. You're better than that. Step 5. If he returns, set a boundary. What happens if he does come back? Because sometimes they do. A text, a casual, hey, how have you been? As if no time passed at all. Here's what dignity looks like in that moment. You don't scold, you don't gush with relief, you don't pretend that silence never happened. You acknowledge their return calmly, and if you choose to engage, you set a clear standard for how you expect to be treated moving forward. You say something like, I value consistent communication. If that's something you can offer, I'd be happy to reconnect. If not, I wish you the best. Short, simple, no drama. Because here's the thing, when you carry yourself with quiet strength, the right people recognize it, and the wrong people will just eliminate themselves. Before we wrap up today, it's important to talk about the healing process because even when you respond with dignity, the hurt can linger. Let's talk about how to emotionally recover after being ignored without letting bitterness take root. Because even if you do everything right, even if you stay calm, protect your dignity, focus on yourself, there's still a real emotional wound left behind, and pretending it doesn't hurt doesn't make it go away. Let's be honest here, it does hurt. It hurts to be overlooked. It hurts to realize that someone you care for didn't value your presence enough to stay connected. And it hurts even more when you start wondering if it says something about your worth. But here's the truth you have to remember. Their silence is a reflection of them, not a definition of you. No one's inconsistency, no one's inability to communicate, no one's emotional maturity is ever a verdict of your own value. It's a mirror of their inner world, not yours. Now, the first step in emotional recovery is allowing the hurt to exist without shame. It's okay to grieve a connection you thought had potential, It's okay to miss the idea of what could have been. You don't have to minimize it just because it wasn't a decades-long relationship. Pain isn't measured by time. It's measured by hope and trust and expectation. So take a deep breath, feel what you need to feel, cry if you need to, write it out if you can. Let it pass through you, not control you. The second step is reframing the experience. Instead of asking, why wasn't I enough? Ask, why was I willing to settle for someone who didn't choose me fully? Instead of wondering, what did I do wrong? Ask, what can I learn about protecting my heart better next time? Pain is inevitable, bitterness is optional, and wisdom is available if you're willing to pick it up from the wreckage. And the third step is just staying open to life again. It's easy after being hurt to decide that love just isn't worth the risk. To tell yourself you'll never trust again, to harden your heart so no one can ever hurt it again. But that's not healing, that's just surviving. And you were made for more than just survival. You were made for a full, rich life. Not every person will fail to see you. Not every person will misuse your hope. There are still people out there who know what a gift it is to be loved by someone like you. Your job isn't to become colder, your job is to become wiser and to continue loving yourself so well that anyone who enters your life is simply adding to the abundance, not filling a hole. Now, before we close today, I want to leave you with one final reflection, a reminder of what you truly deserve and why your dignity must always come first. Let's end with that. Love should never be a negotiation for your dignity. You are not here to audition for someone's attention. You're not here to chase someone who has forgotten how to see you. And you are certainly not here to make endless excuses for behaviors that leave you feeling small. Your presence is a gift. Your energy, your kindness, your loyalty, these are rare currencies in a world that often trades in the cheap and easy. The right people, the ones who are capable of real connection, will never need to be chased. They will recognize your value without you having to shout for it. And when someone fails to see it, you don't lose your value, they lose access to it. That's the mindset I want you to carry forward. When you feel the urge to explain yourself to someone who isn't listening, pause. When you feel the need to beg for clarity from someone who's already shown you who they are, breathe. And when you feel yourself shrinking just to stay connected, walk away with your head high. Because this hour of your life, this golden hour, is far too precious to waste trying to convince someone of your worth. You already are worthy. You always have been. If today's conversation resonated with you, I would love to invite you to be a part of this growing community. Here at the Golden Hour, we honor dignity over desperation, wisdom over noise, peace over panic. If that speaks to your heart, consider subscribing and joining us for more conversations like this one. You're not alone on this path, and you are certainly not powerless. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.